How's it going, you guys? It's Scott with Everyday Home Repairs, and today I want to show you how to seal off and maintain an expansion joint between two pieces of a concrete. Specifically, this is in my driveway. Now, I've already done a video on the expansion joint or gap that's leading into my garage, but that was a completely level surface. In this case, I have a little bit of a slope to my driveway, so I can't use the same product that I did in that video, which was the Sitka self-leveling sealant. Great product, works awesome, and I'd recommend that video and that product if you have a horizontal expansion joint you're looking to seal. You can look down in the description and you'll see the link to that video. But this case, because we have a little bit of a slope, if I use that Sitka, it would just start to flow and pool up at the lower end of this expansion joint, and it would kind of turn into a mess. So instead, I'm going to use a Tremco product, which is the Vulkem 45 SSL. Now the SSL stands for semi self-leveling. So it's not going to flow quite as much as that Sitka product, and you can use it on driveways that have a 6% slope. Now I'll show you how to quickly calculate that to see if you have a 6% or less, which this product would be ideal for. So the tools you're going to need are pretty minimal for this project. First, I'm going to start with the prep work, and since it's fall in my area, I got to get some leaves and some debris out to make sure everything is clean and ready to go. I'm going to dig out the old expansion joint, the twigs, and any other debris in the expansion joint itself, and vacuum that with a small handheld. Shop vac might be a little bit more ideal for that. Now, if I have any large holes where voids are starting to form underneath the concrete, I do recommend some sand for that and filling those voids in before you seal off the top with the Tremco product. Then you'll use backer rod, because you actually only want to use about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch of the sealant itself. So it's key to get the right backer rod to tightly fit into the space and provide that surface for the sealant to sit on top of. You do not want a loosely fitting backer rod. And in my other video, I braided some smaller backer rod, and actually I don't like that solution. So we'll talk a little bit once you get past a 3/4 of an inch gap. That's what you'll find at like your Home Depot or your Lowe's. So I'll let you know how to get that larger back rod, just in case, like me, you have a little bit more than the 3/4 inch gap. So that's enough talking for the intro. Let's jump into the project, starting with the prep work, and I'll walk you through the full step-by-step on this project. Now, just in case you don't know what the slope of your driveway is, let me show you how to calculate that. So what you'll do is you take 2 stakes, one at each end of your driveway where you want to get the slope. Then you'll take a simple string and you'll position that lower on the stake for the high side. So then you can pull it across to the other stake, creating a level line by using a simple line bubble level here. You get the bubble in the middle, and then you'll secure that other side of the string to the stake. And this is now your reference line. Why we want a level reference line is because this is going to allow us to measure both sides and get the difference in height, which is called the rise, which is half of the equation of calculating your slope. So my rise ends up being 6 inches of height change or rise across the driveway. So I take 6 and then I would divide it by the run, which I'm measuring now, and it equals 206. That'll give me 0.029, but to get it in percent, you want to multiply by 100, and that gives me 2.9%, which is well within the bounds of the 6% maximum slope of this product. Next up, we'll just go ahead and clean up. Remember, this is fall, so I'm trying to prune back and get the leaves and twigs out of the way, because when you apply the sealant, it is very sticky. So anything that falls on top of it will bond to that sealant. So I just want to clean up everything as much as possible prior to cleaning out the expansion joint, putting the backer rod in, and especially prior to putting the sealant down. So just blow everything out of the way here. And now that we have the surface clean, I'll just take an old flathead screwdriver, and you see that little kind of pieces of black material. That is just the old expansion joint that's kind of dried up and broken down over probably about 20 years. So I want to get all of that out of the expansion joint. And then I'm just taking a little handheld. If you have a shop vac, the more suction, the better. And I'll do the rest of the expansion joint. Again, just getting everything out. And then once I go through there and vacuum it out, I will also take a little wire brush. Now I want to just make sure all of the dirt or loose debris is off the concrete so the sealant can bond. And there's all the expansion joint that's kind of broken down over time that we want removed prior to putting the backer rod in. So now we're prepped and ready to start putting down the backer rod. If you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, you're probably going to find this type of backer rod by MD. This is the extra large, so it's 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Now again, for my instance, it's right at that 3/4 of an inch mark, so the backer rod's a little loose in certain areas. And that's no good. You do not want a loose backer rod because that can again start turning into a mess once you put down the sealant. The backer rod might want to kind of float up to the surface and it just makes the project a lot longer, messy, and not the finished product you're looking for. So there are larger backer rods, they're just not as common. You can find MD also makes an extra large backer rod, which is 1 inch diameter, and it's going to work perfect for my job. This is easiest for me to get on Amazon, so I just prep for this project that I'm going to do on the weekend, order it on a Wednesday. And one thing to note, the smaller backer rod usually comes in 20-foot coils. This is going to come into a 10-foot coil, so you might need to get a couple more bags than you would with the smaller backer rod. Now, I really didn't have any voids underneath the concrete that I needed to fill with sand, but just know that is an extra step. If you start seeing holes and you can't really see the bottom, I would start to fill those with sand before you put down the backer rod. And then other than the backer rod, I'll show you what to do on the ends, because you do not want to leave the ends open, or obviously the sealant will just flow out and again start causing a mess. All right, so now let's put in some backer rod. Now I do read all your guys' comments, so I know in the past others have questioned why I'm not using knee pads, so this job I'm using knee pads to kind of save my knees. So I'll press the backer rod into place. This is pretty firm, but that is how I like it, and it'll make for a really nice finished product where the sealant easily sits on top of the backer rod. I'm just using the handle of a putty knife to push it down about 1/4 inch to 1/2 of an inch below the concrete surface. I just finished up that first roll of 10 foot of backer rod. And then I'm gonna push in the rest of this, which is just about under 6 to 7 foot, giving a total length of right around 17 foot. So here is the finished product. And on this end, I'm just using a shim. So I just positioned a shim between the ground surface and the concrete to stop the sealant. And then we have the backer rod placed between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch below the concrete surface, stretching all the way across. And then on the higher side, I use just some Gorilla Tape. And so I will have a little bit more sealant pooling up here, but it shouldn't be too bad. And then I'll stop the flow with the Gorilla Tape. So now we'll put down the sealant and finish off the project. So I have a 30-ounce tube. I'm wearing gloves because this can get a little messy. And also I have a cardboard box where I can set the tube in if I need to take a break. So I just take my time, and since this is semi-self-leveling, it kind of does most of the work for you, just as long as you apply a relatively consistent amount of sealant as you go along. Now I am using one tube, and I actually got across the entire stretch of 17 feet only using one 30-ounce tube, which was great, and it was a lot less than I thought. And there's a leaf. So you should be noted, grass, leaves, anything will stick to this, especially when it's fresh. Once you get finished, here is what the final product looks like. This is a limestone color. There's different colors you can get. Overall, it looks great. Now, if you don't like that color, you do have an option. We'll get that leaf out of there. And that option is you could sprinkle some sand on top of the sealant, And this should be pretty much right after you put it down, so it's still sticky. Just sprinkling a light coating, not too much. And then after about 10 minutes, I went along with my leaf blower and I just blew off all the extra, so there was only a very thin coating of sand on top of the sealant to help it blend in with the concrete surface. So that finishes up this project, and overall the expansion joint is in much better shape. It's going to help to keep that water out, because in my area we go through many freeze-thaw cycles, so if I can keep the water out of an expansion joint, that should help to extend out my driveway and the concrete life. Now when it comes to adding sand, it does help to blend that in, but do be careful on what type of sand you use and if there's a lot of moisture in your sand. The sand I put down did have some moisture in it, so within about 15 to 30 minutes I blew off most of the sand, so there's just that thin coat at the top, and then the sealant itself could cure, which does take several days depending on the temperature. Now if you're looking to do more maintenance around your house and you want to make sure your downspouts are in shape, here is a video that'll show you the 3 different options you have to extend out your downspouts and make sure the water is getting away from your foundation. So thanks for sticking around on this video, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.